Hi, this is Dr. Scott, and today we're going to do one of our questions. This is the Dr. Scott short questions. Okay, this is talking about indoctrinated medical professionals. Now, as a medical professional myself, because I'm an audiologist, I see this kind of thing here. So let's talk about her question. Let's bring it up here. I shortened the question a little bit so we could kind of get through it. My daughter is an indoctrinated nurse and doesn't believe anything I say. Do you believe that the shots given to the children today are saline? I'm a very concerned grandparent. And I feel this kind of thing. Um, Listen, as my wife's a nurse, I'm an audiologist. You know, we were trained in the medical sides of things. And there are too many times that we have pushed back against this COVID narrative. And the COVID, and I'm literally on this one. I'm not even going to monetize this one because I know what's going to come up with that. The when the COVID narrative first came out, I looked at this situation. I said, I'm not doing this. Um, I tell a story, but I'll give it to you this way here. I was in a place called Quick Trip. There's these gas stations now in Texas. They call them Bucky's, and there's these high-end kind of gas stations. Right during COVID kind of time frame, 2020, easily. Both people are wearing masks, the customer and the person behind the desk. Okay, because they were. I mean, the person behind the desk is required to wear the mask by corporate kind of thing. Okay, and so he goes, the customer comes up with a jug of, in the styrofoam container, and he's got his drink in there. And in the back, he's got to go grab they got to go grab the lids, which I don't understand that. So they take some tongs. He tries to bring it out, and he drops it. He goes, oh crap! He guys get another one, brings it over, and the guy's like looking to reach it, and I'm like, dude, just grab it, right? He finally grabs it, puts it on the lid, reaches in his pocket, grabs out, the couple dollars for the drink, touches the other guy's hand. They go into the drawer, gives him change, and places the change on the hand of the other customer. Now, most people who hear this just go, I mean, literally, if you're not a medical professional, you'd hear this and go, so I don't know what you're talking about. But like transmission comes by the touch more than almost anything else. I mean, we want to talk about airborne, transmission. For instance, if you have a cold, a flu, most of the time that is transmitted by air, right? And that's why when they talk about when you sneeze, obviously you're expelling stuff out of your nose. Happens all the time. And yet, why weren't they wearing gloves? There's these little blue gloves that everyone could have worn and had a hazmat and throw it away. And they didn't do this. So it gets back into this conversation of indoctrination. And we didn't have, here's the thing that I'm so angry about when I look at this stuff, is we had medical professionals who were trying to speak to this and they would shut them down. The COVID narrative just got, beaten in the teeth with a, multi-hundred page document in Congress that said this thing came from a lab man-made in China, which is exactly what Trump was beat up about when he talked about it. You would be canceled on I was canceled on Facebook. I finally can't even get into Facebook anymore. And so I had to just walk away from Facebook because these kinds of narratives have come up. When you look at the word indoctrinate, it means to teach to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. Now, when she says this, I know where she's going here, but for instance, this is a systemic, he indoctrinated them in his systemic theology. Like, theology? Why would you use that? You see, we don't even think about it from a scientific level. And we haven't spent any time looking at that. The very first time I even thought about shot issues was when my best friend Eric calls us, or his wife at the time, I mean, well, his wife now, Beth Ann, says to my wife, our daughter is in the hospital and it's bad. And we didn't pay attention to it at that moment. We were like, we prayed about it. And then we are kind of sitting there, we were playing a game, my wife and I, and then we're like, no, we need to go. And by the time we got there, she was already dead, 3 month old, and dead of SIDS. And boy, I never cried until I hadn't cried for a long time until that kind of thing. And they had tracked it back to a vaccine, and this is, geez, man, it's good, 25 years ago kind of thing. And I never thought about that. It kind of made us pause on doing some of the vaccines with my son. And we backed off doing some of those ways. We kind of rethought some of those areas because this thing kind of came up. Now we see in the last, ever since 2021, there's plenty of evidence of suddenly dying. Individuals all over the world, young, healthy sports, athletes dying, coming up, lame in different ways. And so here's the thing. As a grandparent looking at your indoctrinated nurse, the moment in time is coming for people to look at this particular thing. The reality is, unless you're living under a rock, you've heard this thing. This is not like I don't have to be out there. There are tons of people talking about this. What I would say is this indoctrination that happens from people who are educated, like me, that is a very hard thing to break. Now, you people who are not indoctrinated, you're open to conspiracy theories, well, then they make fun of you too. And so I kind of say, can we just look at the information without judging the person for the conspiracy theory or judging the person for the indoctrination? Can we sit and have honest conversations? Can we drop our emotional state here? Because the reality is, whatever you have done, you can't undo that. Do I hope that it's sailing? I don't. I hope it is. Can I tell you that it is? I can't. What you need to kind of do in these kinds of things that are way bigger than you can stress about them, but it says, do not be anxious for anything, but with prayer and supplication, present your requests to Christ. I could sit around, be frustrated that Nasara on today is the 9th, and you're going to probably see this on the 11th or so of December, and be frustrated that it hasn't happened yet. And yet every morning I get up around 3 to 4 in that range. I used to go 4 to 5. Now it's 3 to 4. I can't even wait to get up. And I mean, last night I went to bed at like 9:30, or 9:30, and I slept till 3. That's a long time for me. And yet when I get up, I'm ready to start being in prayer, spending time with the Lord, because I need to flush out the stuff I can't fix. I can't deal with everything. And there's some of these things that are just in my wheelhouse, just like there are for you. Guys, you can't fix this. You can lead people to that, but that's your grandchild and that's your child. I get it. But here's the point. You need to bring the information and to love them through that, because the time of reckoning for bringing out truth is coming, fast approaching. RFK Jr. is going to be leading not just the NIH, not just the HHS. By the way, HHS has 24% of the budget, the biggest of those 3-letter agencies. I had no idea about that. $2.8 trillion are spent, and I can't even figure out what they spend it on. And the FDA and CDC, they're in the tread marks of RFK. This thing is coming. And when truth comes out, it'll come out like a flood. And people need to reconcile themselves to that. The word reconcile means to write the information. So like when you get a checkbook, right, and you reconcile it at the end of the month, let's say you're off by, $3.52. It's an odd number, and you look through every single transaction and you're trying to find it. And if you finally find, wait a second, the bank charged me a $3.52, make up something, right? Oh, well, check mark that. And then the account balances. What your checkbook says is what the bank says. That's called reconciliation. When we reconcile with one another, we have to come to the area of truth so that indoctrination doesn't happen. We're all indoctrinated in one way or another. It is not indoctrination when we talk about theology, which is the word of God. That's the study of the word, or logos. But what real indoctrination comes is when a systemic group of people tell you one particular thing. And the answer is, why do they get to tell you that? You need to be critically thinking about it. Just like I was critically thinking about the guy walking in and they're both wearing a mask and they're touching each other's hands without blue gloves. And if this was really that bad, you should never do that. Okay? So hope that helps you get a kind of perspective on that, because there's not exactly answers and you need to let this sit with the Lord. Thank you so much.